On the night of November 3rd, 2018, a group of women gathered in a suburban Georgia home for what was supposed to be a harmless adult sleepover. They drank, played cards, watched football, and celebrated a friend's birthday. It was the kind of event most people wouldn't give a second thought to. But by the next morning, one of the women was dead. Her name was Tamla Horsford. She was a 40-year-old mother of 5, warm, funny, full of energy, and loved by those who knew her. She wasn't the kind of person you expect to vanish into tragedy, especially not at a small birthday party among acquaintances. Yet, sometime between the late hours of that night and the quiet stillness of the next morning, something went terribly wrong. Tamla's body was discovered in the backyard of the home, face down in the grass, just beneath the back deck. The initial ruling: an accident, a fatal fall after a night of drinking. But almost immediately her friends and family started asking questions. And when those questions led to conflicting statements, inconsistencies in the investigation, and autopsy results that didn't quite match up, theories of foul play began to surface. To this day, the truth behind Tamla Horsford's death remains an open wound, one that refuses to close. This is her story. Tamla Horsford lived in Cumming, Georgia, a suburb about 40 miles north of Atlanta. She had moved there from Florida with her husband, Leander, and their blended family. By all accounts, Tamla was outgoing and full of life, a woman who loved to laugh and had a deep affection for her children. On the night of the party, she was invited by a friend named Jean Myers to a sleepover-style birthday gathering for a woman named Michelle Graves. It was meant to be a low-key celebration. A group of women, mostly moms, would get together, bring drinks, wear pajamas, and have a night off from their usual routines. Tamla didn't know everyone there personally, but she agreed to attend. The gathering was held at Jean Myers' home, a large 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood. In total, there were about 10 people at the party, 8 women and 2 men, one of them being Jean's boyfriend, Jose Barrera, a pretrial officer for the local court system. Tamla arrived with a bottle of tequila and quickly made herself at home. Photos from the night show her smiling, wearing a white onesie with paw prints, and posing with other guests. According to attendees, she seemed to be in good spirits, laughing, dancing, and drinking, but not out of control. Around 1:30 a.m., some guests began heading to bed. Others trickled out over the next hour or so. Tamla was reportedly the only one who planned to sleep over. She sent a final text to her husband around 1:47 a.m. saying she was fine and would see him in the morning. That was the last time anyone heard from her. At around 8:45 a.m. the next morning, Jean's aunt, who also lived at the house, looked out the window and saw what she thought was a doll lying in the backyard. But when she looked closer, she realized it was Tamla, face down, motionless, in the grass just below the deck. A 911 call was placed at 8:59 a.m. by Jean's boyfriend, Jose. In the call, he said Tamla had probably fallen from the deck, and described her as unresponsive. His tone, some later argued, was oddly calm. He mentioned that she had been drinking, that there was a small cut on her wrist, and that her arm was stiff. First responders arrived shortly after, and Tamla was pronounced dead at the scene. From the start, there were questions. Why was Tamla face down, with injuries inconsistent with a typical fall? Why hadn't anyone heard anything in the night? And why did her body appear to be untouched for hours? When the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office began their investigation, they quickly leaned toward an accidental death. Their theory was that Tamla, possibly intoxicated, had gone out for a smoke on the upper deck, lost her balance, and fallen roughly 14 feet to the ground below. But Tamla's family wasn't convinced. They requested a second autopsy, which raised new concerns. The independent pathologist noted several injuries: abrasions on her face, cuts on her arms and legs, a broken wrist, and lacerations to the heart and lungs. While these could have been consistent with a fall, some experts argued that the injuries seemed more consistent with a physical struggle, or multiple points of impact. The positioning of her body also didn't make sense to some observers. She was face down, arms at her sides, legs straight out, unnatural for someone who had supposedly tumbled off a railing. Most people don't land in a perfectly straight position from that height, especially if they fall unintentionally, and then there were the inconsistencies in witness statements. Several people at the party gave conflicting timelines of when they went to bed, who last saw Tamla, and whether she had gone out on the deck alone. Some text messages were deleted. Security footage from the home's cameras was said to have been accidentally overwritten. And Jose Barrera, the man who placed the 911 call, was later fired from his job for accessing the incident report multiple times without authorization. It all added up to a growing sense that something wasn't right. Despite the mounting questions, the case was closed in February 2019, with the medical examiner's official ruling stating that Tamla's death was accidental. They cited high levels of alcohol, combined with traces of Xanax and marijuana, as contributing factors. But that ruling only deepened the controversy. Tamla's friends and family pushed for the case to be reopened, and by 2020, following national attention on racial injustice and a renewed focus on mysterious deaths of Black individuals, the case began to receive wider media scrutiny. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation agreed to review the case. Celebrities like 50 Cent and T.I. posted about it. A petition demanding further investigation garnered hundreds of thousands of signatures. In June 2020, the GBI concluded that there was no evidence of foul play, and the case remained closed. But to this day, the questions haven't gone away. Why did a healthy, happy mother die at a party among acquaintances, with no solid explanation and no witnesses? Why did the hosts act with such seeming indifference? And why did key evidence, security footage, messages, even autopsy photos, seem to vanish or go missing? Tamla Horsford's family still believes that someone knows what really happened that night. That perhaps there was more to the story than a misstep off a deck. That a woman so full of life didn't simply vanish into death without a trace of truth behind it. And so, the mystery remains. A pajama party that was meant to be lighthearted turned into a tragedy. A home full of people, and yet no one saw what happened. An open backyard, and yet no clear path to justice. Whatever the truth is, Tamla's story continues to echo, quietly, steadily, through a community still searching for answers.